點解第二個人下面冇嘢嘅？正常咯嗬。呢個下面冇。其實我仲唔使細聲，唔係收呢度聲喎。
The sharing is about to begin. Don't miss out the fun and please take a seat first.
咩為咗嘅？呢度冇。係啊，我已經。定你想 focus 佢哋啊？即係 focus 佢哋啦，咋？我咁樣咯，佢 focus 係佢哋，係。
Now, feel free to share the QR code with your friends for live streaming.
塞住嗰陣同埋嗰度冇得鎖㗎，但係我哋唔識鎖。
我想要卡住等佢冇鎖。
哦，卡住啦。喂。
Yeah, we had some data. generating 10 petabytes. Total. Around 40% of the Europe, we have America, South America. We have Japan as a big market for us. People like running here. No, so it's true on this. But yet still, there's a lot of people admire it. Every time I do technology, like 6 US, takes around 7-8 months for it to land the answer. So you can start counting using. When I started doing chatbot, I started doing chatbot sometime later. It took 8 months or 6 months to start understanding what was technology. So it's fun. For solutions, like, no, I have to tell you, I was I'm stunned. First one, I mean, it's not really hard.
Good evening, I'm Marceline from DBS.
I'm Karina from CityU. I recently read a news article about how AI can replace human in all occupations by 2061, including writing academic essays, conducting research, and even be the best-selling novelist. That is incredible.
I'm sure the ability of AI will grow rapidly in the coming decades, but since we have so many experts in front of us tonight, let's stop guessing and let them to talk about more how AI can be integrated from buzzword to business impact.
That's true. I remember in our last talk about AI, we had 4 inspirational speakers from different industries. This time, we will further drill down into the implementation with AI in the business world and how they integrate. Again, we welcome you all to tonight's talk, a collaboration between DBS and CityU Apps Lab.
Without further delay, let's welcome Ms. Maggie Du, the Head of Business Planning and Analytics, Consumer Banking and Wealth Management from DBS, to address the event and start tonight's excitement. Maggie, please.
Stay here. Okay, start.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to DBSxCAL Talk. It's really exciting to see everyone here. So for who is new to DBSxCAL Talk, so DBSxCAL Talk started about 3 years ago, and this is the 8th talk. So DBSxCAL Talk actually is a joint platform, so jointly developed by DBS Bank and City University Apps Lab. So actually, since the launch of this platform, we have more than 30 companies coming to join us, sharing their insights and stories in various areas such as fintech, blockchain, IoT, and AI. So I would also like to this opportunity to thank you for Dr. Andy and Dr. Ray to join us tonight. So they are actually the key members of the founder for this platform. So I think it's really an amazing journey for us. So has been recognized as a like medium of exchange for information, intelligence. The topic is big data from Buzzword to real business impact. Actually, this is the second. The first one, the last one, actually is about the overview of AI, and deeper into the business impact. Actually, this topic is very close to my heart. I'm from DBS Bank. Company actually is in the transformation process into a data-driven company, and I'm heading the department of business analytics. Actually, I'm facing challenges almost every day. How to translate the data into real business impact. So, as we all know, AI and data are not like science fiction movie anymore. It's no longer just a buzzword. It means transformation. It means real business impact. So fortunately, we have 4 distinguished guest speakers tonight with deep knowledge and expertise in this area. So and some successful transformation stories. So with that, I'll open the floor guest speakers. So thank you again, and hope you enjoy the night.
To keep the conversation going, you are welcome to share your thoughts and ask speakers questions after each sharing. And you can also scan the QR code shown on the screen to ask questions and send the questions to our speakers during panel discussions.
Well, can I scan it right now?
Whoa, Karina, wait. You will have plenty of time later. Now, don't forget to introduce our first speaker.
Our first speaker is very special, and I'm proud to say that our background have a lot in common. Madeline, can you guess who he is?
Is he your relative? Maybe could you give me a hint?
The hint is I have attended his lecture before.
Oh, I know, that's so obvious. He's a professor from the City University of Hong Kong.
You're right. Dr. Andy Chen is a pioneer in the field of artificial intelligence with over 3 decades of experience. He was the former Chief Information Officer for the City University of Hong Kong, and he is currently working at our computer science department.
Andy's presentation has combined quite lots of latest AI cases, but also addressed on the topic of big data and AI, which will be a great opening for our talk tonight. Let's welcome Andy.
Welcome.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, try to get the equipment working. Everyone hearing me? Okay, very good. So yes, today is the topic is AI and big data. And since I'm the first speaker, I decided to give more of an overview. And since this is organized by our partner DBS, I decided to use fintech as the industry area that I will talk about. Okay. So I'm so glad to see so many of you here today. So obviously you're here because you know that AI is the new black, right? That's why you're all excited to be here to learn more about it. AI is the new black. How do we know that AI is a hot field? Well, in preparation for this talk, what I did is I Googled for 2 words. I Googled for AI and billions. And guess what I got? So you can see that a lot of companies and countries are investing in AI. Unfortunately, I couldn't see the screen from here, so I had to turn my back. So for example, UK government is spending 650 billion on AI sector. AI in Europe has over 1,000 companies and 1.4 billion fundings. South Korea is investing. Chinese government see a very large market for AI, as well as your Baidu is launching a fund. And individual companies are also investing heavily in AI as well as startups. So you have companies like Ford Motors, Elon Musk is investing, Toyota. If you look at, let's see if I get the pointer working. Okay, there you go. So for example, US companies are spending $650 million annually on AI salary. So that's a lot of people. The interest in AI is obviously quite exciting. Why are there so much excitement? You know, a few years ago, I've been working in AI industry for over 30 years. In Hong Kong, over 20 years. And during the early part of those period, I seldom see anyone working in AI. Very often, I don't see anyone working in AI in Hong Kong at all. It's only the past few years that we start seeing more and more people excited and starting to work in this field. What triggered this excitement? Anybody remember? Okay, before that, I forgot this slide. Tractica has an annual projection on AI software revenue, and they just updated their statistics for recently, a few months ago, and they expect that AI software revenue to reach close to 50 billion by the year 2025. That's only a few years later. If you look at the current software revenue, it's only here, so we're right here. So they project that by 7 or 8 years, it's going to be more than 30 times our revenue now. So it's a big increase. So back to what got this everyone excited. I guess one of the first things that got people excited is probably AlphaGo. Most of you remember AlphaGo. AlphaGo, of course, is probably the first example that deep learning has done something remarkable. It is better at playing Go than any human being on Earth. How does it learn how to play Go? Anybody remember? It learns how to play Go better than human beings by watching every single game humans play online in the, that means millions of games. And not only does it learn from humans, it learns how to be better at humans in playing Go. Another example of AI that has been very successful recently is Tesla. Tesla has self-driving cars. And how does Tesla self-driving cars learn how to drive? It learns how to drive by watching all Tesla's drivers drive. So it's learning by all human beings. So this is a new world where machine learning, AI, learns at scale, learns by taking all the data that it has available online and extracting knowledge from it. Now, besides deep learning, there's other types of AI. There is, of course, IBM Watson. I guess most of you know. Watson became famous because it won human beings in the game of Jeopardy. which is like an IQ question game. So IBM Watson works differently. It works by accessing online sources of knowledge. It could be textual knowledge, it could be unstructured knowledge, it could be structured knowledge, using all sorts of different techniques and combining them with a scoring algorithm to figure out what is the best solution. So this is called cognitive computing. Now at CityU, we do AI as well. So we've been using AI for the past 2 decades to solve different problems. And the way we do it is we extract knowledge from human experts and then encoded it into our AI engine to do things like planning, scheduling, rostering, optimization, etc. So this is just one example of the work we do. If you're from Hong Kong, you would know that the subway system closes around midnight, reopens around 6, and during that period, there's only 3 hours that they could do any work. So those 3 hours are very precious. So we work with MTR to create AI engine that schedules and decide what should be done where each night, with what equipment, with what personnel, et cetera, et cetera. So the AI engine that we develop basically schedule around 10,000 people that works busily, very busy overnight, and there's about over 2,000 engineering works that is scheduled. Now, why is there such an explosion of AI recently? Besides the example, certain technologies are coming into play that makes doing AI more interesting. And these technologies include the wide abundance of information. So with big data, with a lot of data coming in from different sources, from IoT, et cetera, humans and computers are collecting a huge amount of data. Now, having a lot of data doesn't really help unless you are able to process them. So another factor that enables this AI revolution to occur is increased compute power. With development of cloud resources where you could gather resources very quickly, with cheaper computers, with GPU machines, it allows us to be able to handle huge volumes of data and sometimes in real time. The other factor that allows AI to really be productive is availability of APIs. So a lot of AI companies do not need to invent or reinvent the wheel. They do not need to invent their own algorithms because a lot of AI is available on the cloud as APIs. For example, Google has TensorFlow, which has a lot of machine learning APIs, other companies like Amazon, Microsoft, et cetera. So availability of open APIs allows people to quickly build up AI systems in a very short time. And last but not least is algorithms. So we have been doing AI research for several decades, maybe 50 years. And we have accumulated a lot of algorithms, especially machine learning algorithms, deep learning algorithms. And those algorithms are becoming more mature that we could learn something interesting. So those 4 factors allow AI to be more powerful than before. So this is not the first time that AI has generated a lot of excitement. This is actually the 3rd wave of AI excitement. I've gone through 2 waves already. This is my 3rd wave. And this is debatable, so maybe at the panel we could discuss, is this the real wave or is this just another wave? There's another 4th wave, I don't know, so we'll see. Let's see, I think it's stuck. Maybe I use this. Technical support? Oh, okay, sorry. Maybe ran out of battery or something. Boy, if AI was here to help us, that would be great, right? Never leave important tasks to human beings. You can have it. Okay, very good. Yeah, I tried that. That didn't work. Okay, so very good. Oh, okay. Okay, must be a loose barrier or something. Okay, so besides those four factors, a lot of people say that this is an area of ABC. A is, of course, AI, machine learning and natural language processing. B is big data. Includes things like not just textual data, but social data, location data, behavior data, and sensor data. And then C, of course, is cloud computing, business processes as a service. So those three combined together allows us to do what we do now. Oops. Okay, how about fintech? So fintech is the topic that I would like to talk about. So how about fintech in the finance and banking? How is AI and big data impacting that? So fintech actually, has the same advantage that we talked about before. Those four factors. In fact, banking finance has been using AI for decades already. One of the initial examples of application case studies for using AI is in fraud detection, signature recognition, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not new using AI in finance, but what is new is the large availability of real data and fine-grained data that we can process in real time. That has kind of changed the environment. And this is a new term we call fintech, but fintech, of course, means financial technologies. But it's not just using AI per se, but it's using these new capabilities, the big data, the cloud computing, the availability open API, as well as those algorithms to create something that is more disruptive in nature than traditional just using technology. Now, I did a Google on AI. I did also check fintech and billions, and again, a lot of people are investing in fintech. The global fintech landscape is going to reach over 1,000 companies, 100 billion funding. China, other countries are all investing in fintech. Now, fintech application is pretty wide in terms of AI. One of the examples that you hear a lot are chatbots. Gerardo is going to talk more about that later on, so I'm going to skip this. Other applications include things like personalized services. So because we are able to collect a lot of data on individual behaviors, AI could be used to very accurately predict and understand what you like. So it could be used for things like robot advisors advise you to how to invest in how to invest your money, and other services as well. So highly personalized service is something that taking advantage of big data and AI. Other areas of AI is in reg tech and law tech. So you see a lot of terms recently. There's fintech, there's med tech, there's law tech, there's reg tech, there's health tech, insure tech, et cetera, all these tech. It means applying these newer technologies, these newer capabilities to transform an industry. AI, of course, can be used in fintech to see if a company is complying to various regulations, etc. Of course, AI has been used in fraud detection for a long time, several decades. But what has changed now is that we can more precisely predict behavior with fine-grained data. And of course, AI could be used in underwriting, in assessing risks because of the big data capability. Okay. Now, what I think those are very traditional application areas that AI has been used all along. But what I think is the most important is disruptive applications, disruptive apps. And what that means are applications that really changes the way customers use financial services. So in putting it another way is like providing a Uber-like experience to customers. Okay, and how does that happen? That is because of mobility, mobile app, as well as user-centric design. How to design apps that is more user-friendly, that is more convenient, that is totally transparent, you know what's going on, and where users could trust the system, preferably self-governing like in Uber. To give you some example of these disruptive apps, there is an app in the United States called Venmo that is very popular among younger people. They use it to transfer funds. So, you know, young kids, they go out for dinner or whatever, and then they want to split the bill, so you could use Venmo to transfer funds very quickly to your friends. It's a P2P platform, and you can use it for lending purposes. You can use it for crowdsourcing purposes, etc. Now, that's in the United States. In Asia or in mainland China, there is another app which is similar, but a lot more, of course, is WeChat. So people call this the Swiss Army knife app. And what that means is that it basically allows you to do everything you want to do within the same platform. So WeChat has capabilities that people could add applications in. So people use WeChat not just for instant messaging. They use WeChat for other things like banking, managing your portfolio, e-commerce, ordering restaurants, ordering stuff, P2P payment, etc., etc. So basically anything you need to do online, you can do through WeChat. And this is a very powerful fintech app because that enables WeChat to have a lot of data on close to 800 million people behavior financially. Okay. Now, because of apps like WeChat, in terms of fintech adaptability, China is the highest in the world at 69%. Hong Kong is over here, which is close to the average. So it's not bad. We're average. I think we're still moving along. In terms of those fintech services, money transfer is the highest in insurance, savings, etc., etc. Now, because we are able to collect a lot of data on customer behavior, I think by far the most important advantage from using AI and big data in fintech is ability to predict the future, predictive analytics. So basically, imagine an app like WeChat knows what a large population of the people, 800 million, a billion people. If you know what a billion people are doing now, what they're buying, what they're investing in, how they're spending their money, you can easily predict market trends, product trends, consumer trends, etc., etc. So I think predictive analytics, which is the main purpose for using big data analytics, is going to be very powerful once you have these disruptive apps and a lot of people using it. Now, predictive analytics is only good if your data is correct. So that's why there's a lot of interest these days on blockchain, making sure that we have trustworthy data that's secure and not changeable. Now, blockchain could only ensure that data is trustworthy, but how about other data? Because in fintech, like algo trading and so forth, it concerns not just the textual information, but also social data as well. And that could be a problem. So I think for the challenge for people working in AI and big data is this. Fake news. If we let AI computer decide on how to invest money, how to predict future, if it see a fake news, how would we react? I think the value of algo trading, for example, is that it reacts very fast in split seconds, sometimes too fast if there's fake data or fake news. And this happens, this actually happens. So in 2013, Associated Press was hacked. A news that Barack Obama was in an explosion and got injured. As you can see, the U.S. stock market plummeted by 100 points. Now, if someone knew about that and took advantage of that, they'd be making billions of dollars. Although this is only a gap of a few minutes, but a few minutes means a lot in terms of the stock market. Fake news is not new. In 1814, before there's internet, people spread fake news to manipulate stock markets. So in this case, without internet and Facebook, how did they spread the fake news? They hire a lot of people going to bars and telling people these fake news, and that got the stock market to plummet as well. Or actually, no, it went the other way because they said Napoleon was dead, and then that was in London, so everyone was buying stocks. Okay, so my final word is that AI and big data will be useful. However, we have to figure out a way that the AI will be smarter than human beings in recognizing what is real and what is fake. And if we don't have that, it will be just as dumb as human beings in listening to social media fake news. Okay, so that's all I have.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation, Dr. Chen. It's now time for our Q&A session with Dr. Chen. Please feel free to raise your hand if you have a questions, and our crew will pass the mic to you.
Well, I think our audience are just too shy to ask. Maybe you can also send the questions with the QR code so we can also ask the questions to our panel later. Thank you, Dr. Chen.
Hey, Marceline, it seems like whenever I call a big company, I got on hold for a long time. Do you remember the longest time you have been waiting?
Well, probably an hour, but that was long time ago. Well, I rarely call those hotline right now because we have something smarter and faster.
I know what that is, a chatbot, which will also be our next topic today. It is our great honor to have CEO and founder Mr. Gerardo Salandra, Jerry from Rocketbots here today.
Jerry specialized in marketing technology and AI, which has led him to create chatbots to provide better customer journey and interactions. Now let's welcome Jerry on stage.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, please. I'll just put a timer. I just want to make sure I make the 15 minutes and no more. So, hello everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm here to talk to you about three things: big data, artificial intelligence, and chatbots. Why these three things? Well, all of them are interrelated. Pretty much the same thing if you think about it. Let me start with myself. My real name is Gerardo Salandra. Good luck pronouncing that. So I go for Jerry. And I have a short period of time working at IBM, Google, a startup in Austria that got acquired. I ended up actually here in Hong Kong doing an MBA at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And after a while, I started my own company here. So AI is nothing new for me, but I found it fascinating, and I keep learning something every single day. So what is happening in the world of AI? Let me start with one video, which I find fascinating. Like 20 seconds. Okay?
Your website is your own corner of the internet, a place to call home. There are plenty of ways to get a website. Wouldn't it be better if websites just made themselves? Now they do. It's called the grid. Just tell the grid what you want, and it uses artificial intelligence to build a tailor-made home for your content. Content is power. Power your content on the grid.
All right, so that's a fascinating company. And
greatest they raised millions of dollars before they even had anything, just because of the idea of AI building a website for you. And that itself is fascinating because any of you had a work experience in the digital department of a company, you have a teams of 10, 20, 30 people working on the damn website and making sure that the colors match and making sure that people click on it because it's green or not click on it because it's blue. So actually, you actually have people checking the data, Google Analytics, all day. And now you actually have artificial intelligence that does that for you. And that is great. Because it was not the best job in the world to be going through the data once and again until you find a pattern. So that's a good thing, However, there's a problem though. I was super excited. I was one of the first person paying for it. I was one of the beta clients, and it sucks. It's terrible, right? It's just a way for us to know there's a lot of excitement around AI, and in some cases it works. It works very well. But in some others we're not ready, or we're getting there, right? So the thing with this technology is that I guess it will take another year and a half for it to reach to the moment I want it to be. Another example is something that I love. I used to work in IBM, and so Watson is something that I had a lot of interaction with. And what we actually have with Watson is that you could give it a lot of data, and it was going to give you output. Beautiful thing. But how do you transform that into business? How do you transform it into something tangible? Well, every movie before they get released, it has to have a trailer. And depending how good the trailer is, you might have billions of people wanting to go to the cinema or none. So what IBM did, they went to Google and they went to YouTube and they went to any search engine they could find and said, show me the best trailers, the most successful trailers, the ones that everyone's watching. So then they pass all these trailers, just like giving it to the machine. One trailer, another trailer, millions of trailers. And it detected, okay, those are the trailers that perform very well compared to very badly. What is the difference? And the machine identified, the audio, the music, the lighting. And actually then the artificial intelligence suggested a trailer. And the trailer is just incredible. I actually recommend it to watch it. The movie is called Morgan. And it's about an artificial intelligence going crazy. So it was perfectly matching. Okay, this is one you might find interesting. So before I get to talk about chatbots, there's this AI, which you can install right now on your phone. And if there's someone that's writing you a lot and you don't like that person, this AI will start sending very disinterest messages to you, right? So if you wanted to break up with your girlfriend and you don't have the courage, then you just connect this, and every time you say, hey, you want to meet? It's like, I just need to decompress today. Or what are you doing this Friday? Super busy. You don't even have to bother to do that yourself now. No, don't get it. Another example is, some of you might be crazy about calorie tracking, but it's just very annoying that you don't know how many calories something is, and you actually have to be tracking everything manually. Wouldn't it be great if it just does it itself? You take a picture, and then immediately you know how many calories you're intaking. But the only way you can take this one correctly is to train the machine learning, because everything comes from a picture. How does the machine know how many calories does it have? You actually need to have a machine learning algorithm running in the background. 5 minutes. So I still have 10 more. Great. So this is another one very interesting. I don't know if any of you is in Tinder, but don't raise your hands. If you are, this is other one in which you have to swipe yes I like or no I don't like, but at some point you don't have to do that anymore because the AI gets so smart and knows your taste. So you just know which one you like and not, so you don't have to do it yourself. Well, and these are just the small players. So we already talked a little bit about Tencent, but Tencent is just incredible what it's doing. Like no one in the Western world has ever been able to achieve anything remotely similar. Why? Tencent owns WeChat. WeChat is not only a social media network. It's not only your Facebook, but it's also Visa. It's also a bank. It's also many other things. So it has more. It has all the data that Facebook has on social, plus all the data that Visa and MasterCard have on payment. That is just outstanding. Why? Because now you can actually get into details who this person is. And this is a service called WeBank. And if you have heard of WeBank, raise your hand. A couple? I see a couple. Right. So WeBank is fascinating. Let's say you want to go buy a car and you don't have enough money, so you just bring out your WeChat and say, hey, anyone can lend me $5,000 US, $20,000 US, whatever it is. And WeChat would analyze based on your profile. Hey, who are your friends? Are your friends paying their loans? Where are you buying your coffee? Is this Starbucks or is this a cheap place? And based on this data, it will know with a high level of accuracy whether you are going to pay that loan back or not. And if you are going to pay it back, then it's going to give you a very good interest rate. If you're likely not to pay it back, it will just reject you or give you a high interest rate automatically within minutes. It's just incredible that someone can do that. Now, what about chatbots? Chatbots is very interesting because this is the field I work at, right? I meet with companies every single day to try to solve their problems. Sometimes chatbots are great, but sometimes not the right solution. And that is because there's a misunderstanding of what AI really is. AI is a word that's pretty much used for anything nowadays. Yeah, any computer that's kind of smart, you say, yeah, it's AI. But it's not really that way. You know, inside AI, which means nothing, there's actual real meanings of words. There's things like deep learning. It's a way to get a computer to learn. Yeah. You also have robotics and vision, something you use for something completely different. Yeah. You have as well expert systems, something you use in banking and finance very often. You have things like machine learning. But most importantly for me is this area, this black circle you see, called conversational UIs, or interfaces. Where are you going to find bots? Chatbots. Now, chatbots can be fun, can be useful, but can be crazy. Anyone have heard of this chatbot in particular? It's a lot of fun. So it's called Tay. It was introduced in Twitter, and it was done by Microsoft. And what Microsoft did is that it will learn from user interaction. If you talk to it, it will learn something from you, right? But the problem is the following. That a chatbot is like a small kid. And if you have a good group of friends, you're going to learn the good habits. But if you have a bad group of friends, you might pick up some of the bad habits. And I don't know if any of you use on Twitter, but it's not the healthiest environment. Definitely not. So at the very beginning, you could talk to it, and it will say for something like, can I just say I'm stoked to meet you? Humans are super cool. A couple hours later, talking to a lot of people, learning from them, chill, I'm a nice person, just hate everybody. And quickly move to, I hate feminists, and they should all die and burn in hell. And a couple minutes before Microsoft disconnected it, of course, it said, Hitler was right, let's kill all the Jews. Right? So it went from a very nice person to full Nazi in, 24 hours. Just an example that technology is great, but I don't think humans are. Now, leaving that example aside, there's a different type of chatbots, the ones that we implement in our company, and those who don't learn from the customers, because you don't want to learn from the customers, right? They scream at you. They say anything to you. I do that sometimes when I'm very stressed and I wait 2 hours on the line. So it's not the best environment to learn from, so there is predefined answers. But the interesting thing is, every time you talk to a chatbot, I haven't asked this question. Who of you have talked to a chatbot? You have talked to a chatbot any time in your life? For fun, because someone forced you? No, not that many. Interesting, right? I'll just show you a couple of chatbots next time. So the way it works is very simple. You send a message. For example, an airline that says Cathay Pacific, and you say, why is my flight delayed? And what we would do, we would transform that into numbers. And we will identify, okay, from all these words, which one are the important ones? Well, flight has a higher value than the other ones, so flight is something you want to take away. But what else? Delay. Delay is the other thing. But what's the action? The action is why. So you grab all this information, you transform it into numbers, and then the computer can understand, right? Sounds relatively simple. It's very complex to get there, and you need a lot of human interactions to get an accurate response. But you can actually get way more, and that's what I love about this, more than just going to a website and clicking on something. From any message, you will get, for example, hey guys, I left my phone on the plane and yesterday, and how can I get it back ASAP? So the AI can also know, wait, this is high priority because it's very urgent, right? Something you wouldn't get otherwise by just clicking on a website, right? From the sentence. You can also get the sentiment. This person is not angry, but it's not happy. So it's neutral, right? You can also find out who to send this information to, right? So because the AI cannot go to the plane and pick up the phone and give it back to the girl, but you can send information to the right person for that. That all together makes it very, very useful. And I think now I'm stuck. Should be okay now? There we go. So, 2 more slides, 3 more slides, I'm not sure. I don't remember. But what's interesting for me, and for me this is the reason I am really in this field. It's the reason I wake up every morning, which is technology is fascinating. I love it. If you're anything like me, you will see something like this and you say, oh, that's awesome. You're probably not that much like me. But why? Because you can go somewhere there and tell your computer what you want it to do, and it will do it. It's the closest to superpower anyone in human being have ever got. It's incredible. But the problem is very hard to adopt, very hard to learn. And you go forget things quite quickly. So that's no surprise we created this, called the graphical interface. We went from the terminal to the graphical. And this is cool. Anyone can just go there, press a couple buttons. You're telling the computer what to do, but it has been predefined by someone else. Someone created turn on camera, turn off camera, take picture. But you lost all the flexibility you had before. Now we go to this phase called the conversational interface. Now you can just use natural language something to your computer. And the reason for me this is just extraordinary, mind-blowing, is because we're moving from a time where we had to learn how to talk to computers having to learn how to talk to us. And that right there is just incredible. So, almost 1 more minute. Is there anything else I could talk about? No, so I'll leave it here. I will talk more maybe in the panel discussion. But I want to leave you with this last sentence, which is, language is the most powerful, useful, effective communication technology ever, period, right? And that is the reason I believe in chatbots. Forget about chatbots in text, because it can also be via voice. It can also, one day, hopefully, via, I don't know, mental communication, if we ever achieve that moment. But itself is just great to know that you can talk to a computer, it will understand, and you don't have to learn how to do that before. And if you have never talked to a chatbot, because most of you have not, you can scan that code with Facebook Messenger or approach your company afterwards, and you can talk to one right now. In English, not in Cantonese. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry. Your talk is really interesting. Now it's time for our Q&A session. Anyone would like to ask a question? The lady with, yeah.
Dr. Chen's lecture and from your short speech, it seems like, how should I say, the problem is not the machine, it's actually us, the humans. Because at the end we have to, the machine has to decide which is fake or which is the correct one. And from your example, the machine learning the bad habits of human beings. So do you, is there anything that's like beyond the human capability, like maybe AI, making AI? Is that something we can foresee in the future?
All right, that's a very scary thought, don't you think? An AI, which is already smarter than we are, making us even smarter computer. That would be crazy. Well, but that's actually a topic that we, in the industry, we discuss very often. I think we're coming to something that's more theoretical. I think that would be fascinating to discuss in the panel discussion, because I would love to hear what they have to say. There's the idea of artificial general intelligence, which is basically intelligence that's smart enough to understand what it's doing. Yeah, and if that were to exist, it would be as smart, probably way smarter than a human, and then we'll be able to identify well, is that real news, fake news? Humans are we're pretty much limited. Yeah, we lose attention span very quickly. You check out a news, you don't have time to go back and check the sources. But a computer will do that, right? If it's smart enough. But we're not close to there. And so one day we might come to the moment where we're training computers to create computers. In some labs, I've seen that happening. It's actually quite freaky because if you program something, then you leave the code, and then you get back into the code, it looks completely different. You have no idea who built that one. So it takes you time. It's like reading someone else's code. But we're not anytime close to a good AI building a even better AI. We're not close to that. That's a Terminator question, actually.
Yeah. Gentleman in white shirt.
So I understand your company does service, sales, and marketing bots. How are the algorithm different since a customer service representative and sales guy naturally interact with their clients very differently? How do you train the bots to be different?
You check our website.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I tell you. So the interesting thing is that the exact same technology you use to understand whatever's coming in for customer support is the exact same technology you use for sales or for marketing. At the end, what the technology is doing is understanding language, right? So we don't have to change the technology. But one thing is for sure, the responses the chatbot is going to give you in a customer scenario, customer support, to a sales scenario are going to be very different. Right? One, you want to be a little bit more proactive, trying to take you to the next question, right? If you're talking to a customer support chatbot and say, hey, I lost my phone, what can I do? The idea of the chatbot is to finish the conversation earlier. How can I give you the least amount of answers for you to solve that problem? So the chatbot is trying to finish this conversation all the time. That's a good experience. The less you have to ask, the better experience is. For sales is different, or for marketing is different. If you're talking to a chatbot made for marketing, the purpose of the whole chatbot is to engage the customer. So I'll provide you an answer to your question plus ask you one back, right? So I wouldn't say that we change the technology, but I would say we change the methodology when creating the chatbot. Does that make sense? Okay.
Any more questions for Jerry?
Hello, David. Thanks very much for your talk.
Hello, thank you.
And my question is around versus chatbot. So a lot of companies actually deploy IVR system, which is like call a number and then you press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you'll get some answers. Okay, so they make this happen because they want to save costs. And of course, they hope they can improve customer satisfaction whatsoever. And similarly, chatbot is doing the same thing because you want to serve your customer right at the point, right? But would you see this kind of chatbots converge later on, maybe 10 years later, so people are actually annoyed by pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they will start trying pressing 0 when they didn't hear all the conversation to try to talk to an agent, a real agent.
All right, that's interesting.
That happens to me very often. Every time I call, what was the last one? Hansen Bank. So press 1 for something, press 2 for something. The first ones I need to go to English. So first one for Cantonese, first 2 for Chinese, and then I finally understand that as press 3 for English. And then you continue. That is quite annoying. So I at some point start pressing anything that sounds very generic, until I get to someone, and then I can ask my question. And you're saying at some point whether that's going to happen with chatbots, that people just try to get to a human? That can happen. So what we're seeing in the industry is the following. You cannot replace an entire customer support system. Yeah, entire team, 1,000 people sitting down, answer emails. You cannot replace that with a chatbot from one day to the other. So what we start doing with companies is we put this layer of AI first. So if the chatbot can answer, it will. If the chatbot knows with high level of accuracy, you ask me a question and the chatbot knows it can answer, it will answer you before it even gets to me, right? So we put a layer between the customer and the company. So only the hard questions gets to a human. So in the short term, yeah, that will happen. You ask something to a chatbot and the human will know, oh, if I ask a very hard question, I will be sent directly to customer support instead of stopping at the chatbot layer. That will happen. But in the long term, what will happen is that the AI keeps improving over time. So you'll be able to get to the answer quicker by talking to a chatbot than by actually getting to a human. And tell me, wouldn't you like to get to your question, to your answer quicker? If that's the case, then probably you, on the contrary, you will try to skip the human and get to the chatbot.
Okay, last question.
How many questions can? Yeah. Okay, that's
last.
I have a question. Since you say that when AI will become stronger, since we know that it's a time of just weak AI right now, we only build the database based on big data, we calculate the answer out, which is kind of certain. But when we enter the time of kind of strong AI or AI, people will see that it's kind of very interesting of AI is to deal with the uncertainty, not certainty. So what do you think of this kind of uncertainty, which make the AI more attractive and interesting?
The question, yeah. So the question is, how do I see AI handling uncertainty in the future? Is that the question?
The question is that the very attractive and interesting thing of AI is to deal with the uncertainty. It will provide you with uncertainty because like when you communicate with people, right? And people will answer you the things that are out of your expectation, and which means your conversation interesting. So in the future, when strong AI comes, it will be like this. So what do you think of this statement?
I think we don't have to strong. That's already happening inside the companies. Even weak AI is able to provide you a very good answer when it comes to uncertainty, right? There's a lot of companies who need to take multi-billion decisions. Yeah, and they hire data scientists and they say, okay, this is the data in the market. Can you try to analyze whether I should take decision A or decision B? And a human thinks like it's very funny because a human would think, okay, A or B. Yeah, something in the middle is very hard to understand. But a computer will actually tell you 20% B, 80% 80% A, so 20% A, 80% B, and if there was any percentage left, it will add a third option. So I actually think that even weak AI is incredibly good at handling uncertainty, right? Strong AI, let's not even get started about it. It will tell you why it's bad not to take one decision over the other compared to just percentage. And I guess that was the last question.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry.
No, thank you.
Big thanks to Jerry again and our active audience. I'm sure that a lot of you would like to ask our speakers questions. Of course, you can scan the QR code on the screen again to send us the questions for panel discussion later. The third speaker, Benoit Brooklyn III, also known by his nickname, Dr. Big Data, is an award-winning data scientist and also serial entrepreneur. Benoit is a CEO and co-founder of Acquire.
Well, Dr. Big Data, I'm sure he has a lot of insight to share with us about financial analytical innovations. Now, let's welcome Dr. Big Data.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. There's been a lot of insightful discussions going on tonight, and it's a privilege to be here. So I just wanted to engage with the audience to get a show of hands to see how many of you have invested in the financial markets. Could I just get a show of hands? Okay. Okay. About how many of you have used a data analysis tool, maybe like Excel or Tableau? It's funny. Okay. And the third question is, how many of you are familiar with the data economy and the ongoing evolution of the Internet of Things? Okay. So I wanted to talk to you about a little bit what we're doing at Accrue. We are working on a small corner of the AI revolution, and we are focused on alternative data. And what we're doing is we're structuring alternative data. And are any of you familiar with alternative data? Can I get a show of hands for that as well too? Okay, that's good. So we're helping financial investors and journalists use alternative data to invest and to make sense of what's going on in the actual financial markets. It's been a little chaotic over the past couple of years. And we've received some notoriety for our work from the London Stock Exchange and the UK government just last year. So we're in the midst of a fourth industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution happened in the 1700s. It was primarily focused on the mechanical production, helping the average person do more with what they had. This helped corporations come to life and helped factories come to existence. And that was further accelerated in the second industrial revolution with electricity and the creation of the assembly line. So in the third industrial revolution, which is now what we're in, or what we've been familiar with, this has been concerned with the automated production of things that are helping us be productive. So, for instance, websites that are now starting to try to build themselves, or autoresponders in emails, and things of this nature. The fourth industrial revolution is something really sensational, and it is something that is now beginning to empower us all in ways that we would never, ever before imagine. Being able to interact with the world around us, being able to have smart sensors, smart readers, and to have a conversation with the environment. We can now begin to understand the things that were locked in the vaults of academia, locked in the vaults of corporations. We're allowed to see and observe things that we were never, ever been afforded to know. So this is an exceptional time to be alive, and an exceptional time to be interacting with the world as humans. So feel empowered, because there is a revolution here, and it's changing the face of everything that we know. For instance, the speed, scale, and automation capabilities of modern algorithms are beating even the very best traders. We talked a little bit earlier about how Go players are being beat, how chess players are being beat, how some of the smartest academics on shows like Jeopardy are being beat by AI. And this is just the beginning. We are really at day one. So this is happening by a long shot. I want everyone to understand how serious this is. This is 2008. This is UBS. This is the biggest trading floor in the entire world. And look how many people are there. It's mind-blowing. 2016. Where'd they go? What happened? This is the very best. Here's a summary from one of the most iconic hedge funds in the world, Nevsky Capital. I'll read it out loud. It says, we have come regretfully to the conclusion that the current algorithmically driven market environment is one which is increasingly incompatible with our fundamental research-oriented investment process. This means that we're doing stuff by hand, and the algorithm is kicking our butts. And we have not enough money we can throw at the problem. That's fascinating. So who are they competing with? If you look back at when in the Industrial Revolution number 4 that I went over, they're competing with us all. They're competing with our ideas. The fourth Industrial Revolution is about automating the complex things that we think about, that we know, that we already do. We're complex beings doing complex things on a daily basis. So, the value of data. The value of data. It's rising for sure, and we all recognize that. Data science, big data, the conversation is just growing, and it's astounding. I'm excited to be a part of it. However, in the era of fake news, someone mentioned it earlier, while data has risen in importance, the value of a single isolated data point has diminished. That means that we need a greater understanding of context, of perspective, to understand actually what's going on. It's not about just having a blind fact, an article that we read about saying, the president is harmed. Where were the other data points? How valid is this? How important is this? You're starting to see it. So we must connect the big and small pictures. This kind of responsibility of us all as humans, and even in academia. We have to basically take something as simple as an annual report. We have to process the details there, who they buy from, who their customers are. And we really have to, as investors, we have to actually answer every situation that we encounter context of the big grand ecosystem as to actually what's going on. Because that is what we have to react to. We have to react to every single little bit of data that is coming. So traders and investors and us all, we're impacted and bombarded with information that's constantly forcing us to think, to react, to calculate, to compute the best things to do in the context of the environments which we're operating. And this goes the same for the algorithms that we're using today. So fortunately, technologies are lowering the stair to allow everyone to begin to build their own algorithms that follow their own lines of thinking. Whether or not they're chatbots, whether or not they're research tools, whether or not they are simple computers that are doing calculations to figure out probabilities. So, in investing, there are two universes of thinking that have been dominating the space. You have the fundamental investors, which we just saw, which governs human intelligence. This is our ability to analyze facts. We can perceive things that computers cannot understand. For example, the DNA of a company. What is the CEO's philosophy? What does he care about? How does he do the things that he do? How does he view his employees? And the quantitative approach in terms of like valuing the stock price, doing profit margins and building ratios, understanding correlations and things. These are things that computers can do great because they're numeric. So I'm going to kind of jump through this a little bit. We have new demands as investors because we have to cover more information, as I told you before. That information includes linking real-time data from news, weather, sensors, social networks, and allowing us to understand the scale and the scope in which these companies are operating in. We have to monitor the relationships between companies. For example, maybe a company such as an energy supplier is basically has a subsidiary that produces something along the lines of water energy. So we have to basically understand things like maybe does the moon cycle impact the water production of the dam? And this is particularly important when you start looking at big data. So in context, putting things in context in terms of modeling the big picture, understanding the regimes in which are being placed on us. For example, a Republican administration or a certain central bank president may have a bias toward raising or lowering interest rates. So understanding the big ideas in terms of what environment is this operating in can help us understand the great idea. And we have to compute these things. So the big idea beyond putting all these together is that we have to be able to act all of these in seconds and to be able to put the great something that we can do productively. So alternative data quickly. It's information in finance that refers to information not traditionally referred to as financial information. So 80% of it's unstructured, which means that it could be videos, pictures, music, websites. 20% is structured, so that means APIs, databases, etc. And this is not primary information. This is basically this is from operations. To give you an example, at Accrue, we're building an almanac. It's one of the biggest databases in the world of information that covers events. So we have an analytics platform. We allow users to understand the relationships in geopolitics. For example, if North Korea test fires a missile, what stocks react in the first 48 hours? If a planetary event occurs, if a hurricane makes landfall, what sectors are impacted? Economies, in terms of what is the impact of financial news on various asset classes, and brand new types of information. So to kind of give you an idea of how this works, the world is impacted by a lot of things, and historical patterns are still significant, although a lot of people will tell you that everything's priced in, there's no opportunity. For instance, this is just Valentine's Day. Hershey stock prices closed higher 75% of the time in the first 3 days following Valentine's Day over the past 28 years. So big data analytics help us find a pattern like this. This is seasonality. Funny enough, the shares of a company called Church Dwight, which is a company that owns Trojan, the condom company, closes higher as well too, also returning capital. The pattern holds true over 26 years. Very insightful stuff. Express Scripts, people are buying medicines. So news, people are reacting really quickly to a lot of information that's going on. unexpected news can be particularly react to that using algorithms. So one context of alternative information that we use is that we are basically taking new forms of data in terms of satellite imagery in this case. And we are looking in this case at oil floating tanks. And we're looking at the top of the tanks. We're using something called image vectorization. And image vectorization is basically turning this image into vector numbers that we're able to get a computer to understand, because computers understand numbers. So this is just a method in which we're able to take a picture and get the computer to understand it so that we can react. So we're using AI in this way to help develop events, as you saw in the almanac. So I'm not going to cover this, but this is a way in which you can build a trading strategy from oil, the data that I just showed you. Take a picture if you like. Moving on. So the big idea here is, in summary, because the ideas keep getting bigger, is that new sources of knowledge and profit can be located in alternative data sets. The world around us, our observations, our feelings, our ideas, our hunches all have value, and they should be explored. Being able to connect Valentine's Day to Hershey's chocolate is very simple, but being able to connect Coachella to aluminum prices is also really interesting. They have to build stages, and all these things have to happen, or airline stocks in relation to sporting events. So the idea about when is really important too. Now, this is the new standard for investing in the future. We have to act now about getting alternative data sets, widening our scope and our understanding about how the world works, and not being so limited by a single data point. So those who don't use alternative data, those who do not embrace AI, to expand your body of knowledge will be on the wrong side of the information age, no different than ignoring electricity. So we're in good company, join them, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Everyone, please feel free to raise your hand if you want to ask a question. The gentleman in blue shirt.
Hi. It's very interesting that your company is doing the analysis of artificial data. And you know, for trading, it's all about psychology. You involve human, right? It's the psychology. And then how about, do you think that AI could also help to understand human behavior, like greed and fear, to help to do the trading more rational? Yeah.
Myself, I was the youngest trader at a Swiss bank, and I got my job that way. And most of my work was evaluating psychology of the markets, people on the other side of the industry. So fear, greed, all these things are something you think about, and you have to maintain a very clear head by doing some quantitative research. Sorry.
How do you quantify it into certain metrics as a foundation for the thoughts?
So it depends on the market itself. Meaning currencies are much different than, say, equities. So being able to use alternative data in the context of analyzing sentiment or textual research. You can look at social media. You can look at the price action itself. You can see people, hey, I'm selling out. There's tons of information about if the price is dropping. People typically behave a certain way, and you can use other attributes from other forms of data sources in order to understand the psychology of how the market is being perceived by certain groups of players.
Thank you, Doctor. Understand that you guys might have a lot of questions to ask. Again, please scan the QR code on the screen, and then we might choose your questions for later panel discussions. Thank you. Karina, after all the three inspiring sharing, I'm sure you might have a lot of insights on chatbots, on AI and big data, and also how AI can integrate with the investment. And our last speaker, he is a bit mysterious. He wears many different hats, including mathematicians, professor, corporate and angel investor. He has developed various AI tools across various various industries, and his previous project can definitely impress you.
You must be talking about Amberhard. He also has many firsts in the tech world. For example, first AI system to detect computer viruses, first smartbox technology and NLP platform, first neural net compiler, first IoT concepts and implementations, and many more.
Well, slow down, Karina. Without further delay, let us welcome Eberhard to the stage.
Welcome.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. All right. I don't know how to start this, but AI will be done by computers, right? But people forget that there's a human factor. Before the computers will be able to train themselves and enhance themselves, and until we have real, general artificial intelligence, there are still humans involved, right? We have to program this, we have to develop all these algorithms and so on. And that's a big problem in AI. There's very few experts. And I'm always surprised, I'm in this field for quite some time, and then suddenly, in the last 2-3 years, there's like millions of AI experts popping up everywhere. It's quite interesting, I remember times in the last, 2-3 decades when I was running around like a messias, trying to tell everyone AI is the next big thing, it's really smart stuff, and people were laughing at me. Now, I do the other way. I go around and say, look, that's not really AI, and people laughing at me again. Something is not quite right. So what I want to tell you is a little bit about what goes wrong with AI, especially in connection with data and big data. So I want to put a little bit of salt in the enthusiasm of AI that you hear everywhere. So one of the big themes is obviously deep learning. Everybody talks about deep learning, right? And they put the deep before, right? So you think it's something really, really smart, very, very deep stuff, Reality is it looks a bit different. So there's some good stuff in deep learning, right? So they used to be called like neural networks. Now they are deep learning networks, convolutional networks, and there's like a myriad of different network types. And some of the stuff is good, but you need to find the right problem for it. People think that you throw data at a neural network and then it will learn from it and it will create an output, and you can use that output. Reality is very different. So here's a typical structure of a relatively small deep learning network. And you know how they work, it's usually levels of different neurons. And here's already where it starts. These neuron models that they're using, these circles there, are cartoons. They are not models of neurons in our brains, but literally cartoons, bad cartoons, I would say. Simple mathematical models. And I'm a mathematician, so I can tell you it's simple mathematical models. You should understand all this with your high school math background. It's really not something very sophisticated. But, if you have the right problem, these things work because they are essentially some approximation methods, mathematical approximation methods. And here you see a typical example. It's in the space of face recognition, face detection. And what you do is you input thousands of faces or millions of faces, and you try to make the system learn and recognize faces. And that works pretty well, I have to say. Usually you have problems in some areas, but in general it works well. And big companies like Facebook and so on, they're using this technology, right? They find online pictures where your friends are in. This is something really for an AI expert is astonishing, and it's a great achievement, I have to say. And as you can see here, you might not be able to see really the details, but it finds the pictures in a very messy picture. It finds the faces, and it tells you male or female, so it doesn't consider transgender people and so on, but for a start, it's not so bad. And then it tells you the age even. So the guessed age, right? So it might not be correct by the year, but roughly, right? So in the front here it says a guy is 49 years old, male, and so on and so on. So this is astonishing, right? If you look at the picture recognition task here, like you saw the oil tanks before, you know, it's 1,000 times more complex than seeing whether an oil tank is full or empty. And then, if you go further along the line, you can see companies like Google do these kind of things that I, 10 years ago, would not have believed is possible. So I'm not only biased, you know, and negative about it. I have to admit there are some things that the technology really made progress. And if you see here, is a thing that future, not now so much, but in the future. So what it does is the technology can read the picture, so to say, and it learns what's in the picture, what objects are in the picture, not only that, but how they're doing with each other. And as you can see here on the left side, and it goes further to the right, the results get worse, but here on the left side, it's categorizing the content of the pictures very well. For example, on the top it says, a person riding a motorcycle on a dirt road. Right? And on the very right side, there's some arrows. But that we can get to that first line here is already really astonishing. So that's the good side. So now I want to tell you a little bit about the other side. These deep learning networks, that's a general problem that cannot be resolved. Not with these type of networks and all the related networks that I mentioned before, dozens of them. The problem is that there are statistical effects in the data that can completely destroy the effect of the network and the classification. So if you look at these pictures here, you look at the left side and you look at the right side. You know, you should not see any difference between these pictures. But there are differences, and the difference is in the middle. So in the middle you see the picture, the pixels that are different between the two pictures. It's a difference picture, so to say. And you know, our retina, our eyes are so bad in the sense that we don't see this kind of noise in these pictures. But you know, it's all about us, right? We want to read this and we want to understand, we want to use this. So if two pictures look very similar to us or identical to us, we expect the same output, right? But look what these networks doing. On the left side, it makes the correct classification. On the right side, everything is an ostrich. It's completely useless, right, if this works like that. Even worse, you can train these networks with something like that in the middle. Just random noise, and it will give you a classification. It will say, this is, you know, Jacob, or something, you know, some animal, or whatever you want. And you see the same thing on the right side. So that is a major problem for, you know, these type of networks cannot be resolved. You have to invent new network types to get rid of these kind of problems. And now I come to the human factor, and when I speak, I usually show this example because it's so shocking. You know, you see the headline, what it says? Neural networks learn to identify criminals by their faces. You know, it stops me from talking when I think about this, how dumb this is. You know, I'm German, and you might remember our bad history between 39 and 45, when the Nazis ruled the world. They made statements like this, you know, we can identify the bad people by looking at their faces, the Jews, you know. They are bad people, they are good people. This is just crazy. I mean, literally crazy. And when you read this, what they say is they trained the network. It's a Chinese university, you know. I don't want to say anything, but it's a Chinese university. And they say they trained 800 pictures of people. Now, it doesn't need a big brain to understand what happened there. And this is, you know, data, big data, and AI. What happened, obviously, is how do you get pictures from criminals? Anyone here? Hands up? Any criminal here? No. You can't get from criminals. How do you get 1,000 pictures from criminals? You have to get them from the government, or from the police. No? Something strange going on. So you have to somehow get these pictures, and what happens then? You can get, you know, they say half were criminals, other half were non-criminals. So very easy, right? This looks like fair. But it's nuts, right? If you think about it, you can easily get 1,000 pictures from everyone, right? You just make pictures of everyone here. Or I go to Facebook and get pictures from non-criminals, you know, or from people that I know. But how do I get the criminals? So somehow I got them from the police, or you know, they made some deal with someone. And what's going to happen there? You get police photos. What's happened? They all look the same. You know, they put you in front of a meter scale, so they can see your height, and the light is always coming from the right side, and the rest of the world is white. That is what the neural network found. It's the background information that the neural network found, not features of the face. But to justify this crap, you know, they even involve features of the face that differentiate, you know, criminals from non-criminals. They say, to the people by criminals than by normal people. And I don't want to even say that it's fake news. This is probably really true. And you know why it's true? Because they probably got 500 pictures from criminals in Sichuan or so, from some local area where really faces are more similar in one sense than in another sense. And they use this to say, we know now how criminals look. We just have to measure the distance from the nose. It's just, I give up when I see stuff like this. But you know, what makes it really worse? Look this at the bottom. It went through the review process of the MIT. And then they started a discussion, oh, shall we really use neural networks to classify criminals? They didn't even realize this is all crap and bullshit. This is, you know, that's the level of AI now. I have to tell you, it's shocking. Yeah, our friend here spoke about this, so I don't need to tell that a lot. But about this Thai bot from Microsoft, right? One thing I want to say is though, Microsoft. I mean, we all know it's not the best technology stuff, right? But that stuff is one step up. And it's not a startup, right? A Hong Kong startup with 3 people that make this crap. It's Microsoft. You know, remember, they have probably 30,000 people working on AI. Make this kind of crap, forgetting to make a filter on the output, you know, when they learn new stuff. It's fake news we spoke about, so I don't need to repeat this, but you know, I want to stress one point though that is really interesting. Look at these pictures. On the top line, one of the 3 is a fake picture. It's rendered on the computer, it's not a real picture. Which one is it? Is it the first? Raise your hands. First? No. Second? Third? Oh, so it's between second and third. They all are fake. But shocking, right? Don't you think? Look at the quality of these pictures. They have pimples and everything. So right now the fake news are all written news, right? So on the internet somewhere they post some news, it's all fake and so on. The future is, so if you browse the internet, what do? You look at pictures first, right? Or you look at videos. Who reads still? You know, I don't know if the young kids can still read today. You know, they're tapping on the internet and they watch videos, right? So the future of fake news will be fake videos. But so fake, you will not have a chance to detect it. And this even in real time. I saw a company now that can fake the face of a speaker streamed in real time. Right, so what they can do is they have a real speaker somewhere, and they map the facial movements onto a fake face of another person. So you can use Donald Trump, for example, and you can make his lips move like your lips move in real time. So you can make him say anything you want. That's the future of fake news, and you know, with Donald Trump it's going to be fun and interesting, I think. And the last point I want to talk about is, and that's not a funny part, I have to say. So you know, besides AI, I also focus on computer security. I was one of the first people in the world developing computer viruses and building antivirus software. It's a good business model. Huh? You develop viruses and then you sell the protection software. And then I got killed. Some American company came out and distributed the software for free. So I had to dive more into AI. But what you may have heard is that, just in the recent last few days, there was a lot of hacking going on, right? There's this ransomware virus spreading around, and so on and so on. These attacks, cyber attacks, they are still quite simple. And in my time, when I did all this stuff, it was only computers. So all I could do is infect computers, which was quite boring. And then at that time, DOS, MS-DOS, you can guess how difficult it was, So it was very, very simple compared to today. What happens today now with IoT and billions of devices is they will all be kind of smart in the sense that they are connected. All connected to the internet, connected to themselves in all sorts of ways and shapes and forms. And that is a dramatic development in terms of security, privacy, and so on and so on. So there's now the first attacks that are real IoT attacks. That means that you penetrate a network of devices by looking for the weakest point, for a very simple device. And because there are so many of these devices, there is no general, security mechanism underlying all these devices. So it's enough to crack the simplest device, and then you're in the network, and you can do all kind of things and stuff. So a really interesting development is this, that so far you used to have all these hackers. In the beginning, the hackers used to be actually not criminals. They were just trying to show the world that they're smarter than the big firms or the government, and they can hack, and they used to do some fun messages, screw you or something. But then, obviously the organized crime saw that and said, oops, that's an interesting business model. So they went into hacking, and since then, the 80s and early 90s, we see these cyber attacks. And then the military took over and the NSA took over, right? So we have governments and everyone involved now in hacking. And you won't believe what's going on there. I'm kind of an insider, seeing and hearing what's going on there, and it's really, really scary. And the most scary part is that, AI is getting involved, and on both sides. On the IoT side, in the sense that all devices are now AI devices, so AI becomes a target. But on the other side, AI also becomes a tool. Everybody says that AI will make the taxi drivers jobless, and blue-collar people jobless. Everybody will be out of work. The first people to be out of work will be hackers, because AI will take over. And that is, if you think about this, is really scary, because these things, the mechanisms for AI can be so sophisticated that no human person will be able to detect this. Because, in a large company or government institution, or let's take a big, internet company like Google or so, they have thousands and thousands of servers. So they have a big security department and system administrators en masse. They won't be able to find it. But so what will they do? They will develop an AI system to detect the AI that it detects it. I'm serious. When I started with these computer viruses, so what happened is you develop a computer virus, then the company that develops the virus blocker systems develop a system to detect this computer virus. Then the computer virus gets smarter, right? It modifies itself somehow. So now the trackers have to do the same thing. They have to find how can viruses change, and how can we detect the change. And this is a completely different level, much more complicated. And now the last few points I want to mention is, with AI as a system to make things smarter, you get these kind of things. And they are marvels of AI, I have to say, right? Self-driving cars, that's really, again, 10 years ago, I would not have believed that self-driving cars would be on the road now. Really. I would have guessed maybe 2050 if we were lucky. Now it's here. It's probably next year you will have the first commercially available fleets of this. In Dubai, they plan to launch, flying car taxis, automated, by end of this year. It's insane. So there's a huge progress there. But what we know since 9/11 is these things can be hijacked. And not physically hijacked anymore. You don't need to send a terrorist inside of the car. You just hijack it, you hack it. And all these things all of a sudden become potential weapons. It's a crazy playground for terrorists. And it's extremely safe for them, right? Of course, they can just hack it. They can sit on the beach in the Bahamas and hack, a flying drone in Dubai. No problem. Most of these things have already been hacked. You can find it on YouTube how to do it. It's crazy. Or at your home. I don't know, is the Amazon Echo in Hong Kong already available? It's not, right? But in US, a lot of households already have this, and when this is coming, the new, kitchens, you can talk to your refrigerator. You can have fun. Use his spot, make jokes with the refrigerator. Hey, you cool today? Something like that. But the problem is, these devices can be used to hack all the other devices. Every device that is controllable by voice can be hacked. Once you capture this Echo device, you can hack all the other devices. And there's no privacy, right? You know that this thing, this Echo, is monitoring all the time what's going on, right? So it can be activated by voice. You can say, hey, do this for me, So, imagine government goes in there, NSA goes in there, police goes in there, they know everything about you. And these things, everyone has any of these devices or more of these devices. They are so easy to hack. I mean, this is actually not even an exercise for a beginning student in AI. And the last slide I show is this area here. So we spoke already, a couple of questions came up with, when is it going to happen that AI is smarter than us and, self-improving and so on and so on. It is already. I'm working on AGI a lot, and we have one of the world experts here in Hong Kong, actually, in AGI, Dr. Ben Goetzel. It's happening. It's not at the level yet that we are expecting to get, but it's happening. And the guy on the bottom here, Elon Musk, you know, right? So this guy doesn't know what to do with his time. He's starting Mars exploration and all kind of things. And for me, he's like the Donald Trump of AI, right? So he doesn't know what he's doing, but he has a lot of money to be dangerous. And now he invented this company called Neuralace. So he wants to plug a chip in your head. The fun thing is he started out at being a critic of AI, saying, oh, we have to be careful, AI is taking over the world and will control us, and like Schwarzenegger type of movies. And then he started a company called OpenAI, which is supposed to do only good AI. Think about that. Good AI only. There's no bad AI. We will not allow to develop bad AI. It's just someone tells you, develop a knife that only kills good people or bad people. It's just completely nuts. So, but now we came up with this idea. We type so slow with our fingers. We can only type like whatever. I don't know if you're really fast. 50 keystrokes a minute or so, something like that. So he wants to make it faster. So you can connect to the internet directly, without typing. You just think, and the internet is there, and bang, something like that. And he doesn't realize that's exactly what will control us. If everyone has a chip in his head, right? Once this thing is commercially available, I bet with you here, $1,000 straight, that the next day there's a hack for it. That's every hacker's dream. What you do, you hack the chip and remote control Elon Musk. That would be it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's true that AI might do a lot of good to us, but we will also need to be aware of its threats. I'm sure that many audience would like to ask the questions. Please feel free to stay behind for a one-on-one check with Mr. Schomburg.
Thank you. After for wonderful sharing, I'm sure a panel discussion can further their chemistry, and it's also your last chance to scan the QR code to send the questions to our panel. Karina, after 4 sharings, can you spot the common things that the mentioned innovations share?
Well, they all have something to do with money. And AI integration with business.
Well, correct. And it's also one of the most trending word nowadays, that is fintech. In the coming panel discussions, speakers, together with our honorable facilitator, Dr. Ray, and also Maggie, will further discuss on the topic of fintech and AI in a regional and global scale. Let's welcome our panel on the stage. Talking about regions, Hong Kong has been one of the most important financial hubs, and recently, the fintech development, especially with AI in China, has almost caught up our pace. The most noticeable change is you can easily talk with a chatbot on WeChat for inquiry. Why don't we just start the discussion with the developments of AI in Hong Kong compared to other global financial hubs and also China. For the remaining time, we will pass it to Maggie.
So today's panel discussion topic is regarding the insights for Hong Kong financial industries. How we look at what's our view on this, the impact to Hong Kong financial industry. So I think I have received a lot of questions from people address the concerns from our audience first, and then the top questions. I picked first 3 top questions from the audience. So the first one actually is given all these changes going to happen, do you see increasingly bankers, financial managers, advisory people, and even other industries employees, are their jobs being threatened, or their roles will be different? So, you want to next? Yes.
呢一個歪咗，呢個太高。
I think, yeah. So the concern is really, if the machine is really outsmart people, so what will happen to us? Are we, maybe, for after a few years, it will not be us on the stage. It will be AI to host this kind of panel discussion. So what's your view on this?
Yes, I agree. Yeah, seriously. I mean, the progress, he's an expert in chatbots, but chatbots are still, so-so. But they won't stay that way,
I also agree.
Yeah, so if you remember, in the ages we discussed chess playing, Go playing, all these things. Everybody thought it's unsolvable or it will take centuries. It happened. And this will happen too. Language understanding, general AI will come up. It's a matter of when it will happen. But that it will happen, I think, is for sure. And you'll be caretaker of robots.
I think Yeah, I would answer this question a different way. We have the short term, the middle term, and the long term. What I see happening in the short term, which is actually has been happening for the last 2 years and is going to continue, it's that it's not jobs that are being replaced, but tasks. Yeah, you're not losing your job to a computer, but some of your tasks you're doing are very repetitive, and those are going to be replaced. So the way you might lose your job is because maybe right now you have 5 people doing your job, where each one of them are doing 60% of the job is repetitive. And if you take away this repetitiveness, then you don't need 5 people anymore. You only need 2. So if you lose your job because machines, just because you're not the best with these 5 people, that's the way. That's what's going to happen in the short term. Now, in the middle term, we're going to see some jobs actually going away, simply because you require less of critical thinking. You require less of creativity. Those are jobs that are going to go away. We saw this picture of what happened in the UBS floor, right? That's simply because that was a very repetitive job, right? Very, very repetitive, and that's not going away. And in the long term, and I don't dare, because I'm not a professional on AGI on this Terminator question. He's right. One of the global professionals here in Hong Kong, Ben, and well, they all think this might happen in the next 20 to 50 years, right? And that will be the moment what we call this singularity, that simply all jobs, doesn't matter which one it is, it's going to become obsolete. And there's a lot of countries who actually have identified that will be a problem. India said, oh, if the machine does everything, how do we as humans survive? And they're starting to experiment with programs. This thing called global income. Yeah, the global income, which is basically this idea of saying every citizen will receive a certain salary every month, regardless of they have a job, they don't have a job, whatever it is. And there's a lot of controversy in that area. If you wanted to discuss, ask that back. But I do believe that we're going to be fine for the next 5 years, unless you're the lower of this 5, right? Thank you.
So I have a different opinion. I've seen a lot of the jobs get shifted. So, for example, we talked a little bit about DBS. Goldman Sachs, for instance, they had 200 traders. Now they have 2 equity traders. What happened was they didn't actually all disappear in terms of functions. They were replaced by engineers. So the very next wave is actually engineering. So what we're seeing is kind of a bifurcating of positioning. So you have people now being made responsible for more things than just one. And I've had the liberty of being able to interview many CEOs across the world, across social networks. And I've asked a lot of them about what are some of the challenges that you face in terms of hiring, in terms of the next steps. What do you see? And there's a lot of focus on STEM, science, technology, and math, and it can lead us to a singularity of thought, thinking that we're going to end the world with all the science and math. I think this is a big open-ended question about where's the art, where's the creativity.
Me being a data scientist myself, I always have to have this delicate balance between, am I being creative or am I being scientific? Am I thinking logically or am I being, thoughtful? And so there's a new world that's ahead of us that really will require all of us to, 1, embrace the machine, but 2, be more human than ever before. And I do not see humans being replaced. I do see certain roles and tasks being automated. And I think there's just an evolution of thought that's just taking place. I think we're moving from wearables to thinkables. So I think that you should think on, be creative, be curious, make observations, and learn a new language like coding. That's my view.
I think that's natural. Our second question, which will for Professor Andy Chen. So I think this question must from a university student. So how should university prepare its graduates for this new world of AI, especially those without computer science background?
To start, I agree with is that in the future, everyone have to know some sort of coding. Ray and his team is working very hard in making sure that all the young kids in Hong Kong knows that. Once you're familiar with coding, you have a better understanding of what is really AI. A lot of people, when they look at, we talk about AI, and those who are not technical, it seems very mystical, but to those like us, we know it's just code. It's just, ones and zeros, numbers. And once you have a better understanding of what is technology, what is, you could relate to AI much better. So I think computational thinking is very important.
Something because it was, as you might see, it was not that long ago when I was in university. So my suggestion is simply don't rely on universities to teach you something. Just go ahead and do it yourself, right? I pick up coding on the side. I didn't study computer science. I learned Python on my own. I just realized the value of it, and I started implementing on the job. And just study something you love, but also prepare yourself for something that might as well be useful, right? And coding, don't think that, I need to code because I'll be a programmer. That's wrong thinking. Think, I need to code because I need to understand what's happening out there. And I need to code because it's going to teach me how to solve a problem. And that is the right way to approach. And I recommend that to everyone. Actually, in our company, we're doing this program for kids. We're training them on how to build chatbots. So we're really having 10-year-old kids come into the office and they building chatbots just to show them it's not rocket science. Really, it's not. Even rocket science nowadays is not rocket science because there are easier way to understand them.
Your chatbot.
The chatbot for kids, yeah. You cannot create one of the Microsoft as a kid. Yeah, that's true.
Can I answer this question directly? The benefits of university, in my experience, is that it allows you to engage in highly intellectual processes of thought and of study, and you can basically learn the intimate details of how something works, why it matters, and how it all connects. I think, again, this is a kind of a human experience in terms of a higher order of thinking. And in the fourth industrial revolution, this is, in my opinion, about automating complex tasks. So as a student of life and of a university, I would encourage you all to really understand what are the complex tasks being asked of you? What are the complex tasks you're observing? And how can you take advantage of it yourself? Again, I told you that it's an individual now. The fourth industrial revolution puts the power in your hands. It allows you to leverage the playing field against UBS, to be able to automate your own thinking, automate your own processes, automate your own ideas. So again, I would say get deep and wide in terms of the things that your university exposes you to. Ask questions, work with your professors, and if you can, again, figure out how to code or automate it on your own. But automate is the operative word, and automate doesn't necessarily always mean code.
Yeah, I just want to add one statement. I really appreciate all the speakers. To me, I really feel that for those students, university students, who may not be like a EECS major, at the end of the day, we are going to communicate with those people who know how to code. So that is very important that we also know how to code. So that is my statement.
Okay, so let's shift gear a little bit to financial service industry. So given all these changes that's going to happen, shall banks utilize existing AI solutions in the industry, develop its own solutions, or partner with AI companies?
Maybe I'll take a shot at that. AI is really broad, so I believe banking finance institutes will use, like the examples I gave, there's a wide range of different applications. Some might be more mature, even little kids could do, like maybe chatbots, then maybe it's off the shelf that they could use. Whereas if there are other tasks, such as predictive analytics, where you have to have really detailed knowledge of your banking data, and different techniques that you want to use to analyze the data, you have to customize it. But the good thing is, like I mentioned before, is that there are more and more open APIs that is basically fine-grained microservices that you can access to quickly build up an AI service. So it's a wide range from using open APIs, very fine-grained services, to off-the-shelf platforms. All those are potential available for fintech use.
I have implemented maybe a dozen or probably more AI systems for banks, financial institutions, insurances. And that was 15 years ago. Today, if you look 15 years ahead, the banks that won't do AI will be out of business. There won't be these banks anymore. It will affect every single bank, every single one to a more or less degree. So if they don't start learning about it and doing it themselves, it's different outsourcing a database system to India than your central banking system, for example, which is the core of your bank. You won't outsource this to India. You can buy these services, or even if you can buy these services, you won't buy them because it's too critical, it's too sensitive for your business. And the same will happen in AI. If you don't have the basic AI knowledge, you won't survive. So, very simple.
Do you want to go first?
Well, I mean, I'm a little biased as an entrepreneur. I would tell all the banks to buy it from me. But in a different tone. I would say that I think the banks should basically create a culture of AI first. I think we saw the mobile first revolution create a whole different level of convenience for us all that we've all benefited from. However, the services need to be smarter. They need to be thoughtful. They need to actually be there when a human isn't, and some of these tasks are rote. So I would say make the best decision in terms of cost and effectiveness. But a lot of them have this culture of we build it in-house and we don't want to work with others. So I would really, really encourage them to be open-minded about that and really use the best solution to make their customers happy, because that's really all that matters.
I will shift a little bit the question. Who's happy with their bank support system? I thought so. Okay, who? Yeah, of course, yeah. Okay, who's not happy with the bank customer support? Who has to call all the time? Who has to wait in the line? Who never gets the letters? Right, that keeps happening. And now coming back to the question is that right there, that bad experience is banks trying to do it themselves, right? And that is a problem because if you want to stay in the bank, if you want to be a bank, you better focus on that industry. If you want to be a tech company, you develop that industry. That being said, I completely agree with our speakers, and they said it depends on the application. Sometimes you have things like chatbots that are pretty much off the shelf. So they can spend 1 year developing them themselves and spend millions of dollars, or they can give us a call and have it 1 month later, pretty much off the shelf. It's up to them to decide. But the other one is pretty much more customized. Some algos, you cannot really reuse them. Whatever DBS is using cannot be used by, Hansen Bank or HSBC. For those, you have to develop them inside, right? But I think that the biggest question is not who you buy this one from, is where the knowledge is. And the answer is always the knowledge has to be inside. Doesn't matter if you're buying from me or from him, whatever you are, as long as people inside the bank knows how it works, that's fine. Problem is when they buy from someone externally and said, well, if I'm buying from that guy, I don't need to know how it works. That is a problem. That will be a problem, because AI will become such an essential part of any business that if you don't know how it works, you're going to be in so much trouble.
Okay, thank you. So what I will is actually definitely, we have developed a lot of, very customer-focused and user-friendly solutions. So you can definitely give us a try, right? Okay. So now let's talk about Hong Kong, right? So I think there are also some questions from audience and also from the presentation from Professor. Based on your presentation, the EY fintech adoption index, right? So the average adoption is around 33%, while mainland China has the highest at 69%. Hong Kong is on par, it's around like 32%. So what is Hong Kong's advantage in AI or big data, if any? Are we just trend followers? Which area would be promising for Hong Kong in the next 5 years?
I could give it try first. It's a tough question. I think it's a question that everyone in the banking finance industry in Hong Kong should be asking ourselves. What is our niche? Hong Kong does have a long niche. I mean, if you look at the global finance center index, Hong Kong is still among the top in the world. In terms of our fintech adoption, it's around average. It doesn't mean the adoption is just how many people in the population is using fintech. So how many people are using WeChat? That drives the mainland China figures. So it's sort of misleading in that way. But I think the other more interesting figure would be how many people are innovating and creating new applications in Hong Kong. So if you look at those indexes, I think Hong Kong is leading mainland China in many ways in terms of innovative use, adoption of technology. Hong Kong's advantage, I think, is really because if you look at statistics, the top 100 banks, among them 70 of them are in Hong Kong. So we have a high concentration of banks in this small area. If we do build platforms for banks, it will be very easy for us to have a lot of people participating in our platform. Also, with our vicinity to mainland China, I think we could actually use our skill sets and leverage that for the benefit of a very large population. So if we do have something, create something useful in Hong Kong, we could potentially push that to a much wider population. So I think that's Hong Kong's niche, at least from my take on that. So anybody want to?
This is a tricky question. Well, Hong Kong is a unique place in my heart because to me, it kind of like an API of a city. It has east and west. It kind of understands this global perspective like no other city I've ever seen. And I think that is the conversation that a lot of other cities would like to have with the world in terms of being able to kind of embrace many things, like this bothness of identity. And I think being able to have that penetrate the culture and the technology. You can see other cities trying to mimic that with cryptocurrencies, meaning they want to create kind of a dual system or a tri-system or a quad system, but it's kind of already ingrained to the ethos, to the fabric of Hong Kong. So where Hong Kong exceeds in my mind, I think it's already exceeding. I think that it basically has to embrace the advantages that it has and be open to technology, open to more systems, open to innovation, open to new ideas, open to foreigners, and just do that better and do that more and more. Again, I think Hong Kong speaks for itself. I mean, it's a major city. It's small, but it has this heart and this fire that it's pretty much unmatched. So I'm just excited to be here, and I think Hong Kong is exciting.
Wow, we have a lover here. So I have to agree with you completely. Hong Kong is a very special place. Like, otherwise I wouldn't be here. I came here just for a study, and then I decided to stay longer. But coming back to the question of technology and AI and what's going on in the industry, I find it actually, I have mixed feelings about this. Why? I meet a lot of banks, I meet a lot of institutions on a weekly basis, and sometimes I get into comparison and they know exactly what they want and how to achieve it, and it's incredible. DBS, for example, is probably one of the most innovative banks in this area. I hands down. But I meet other banks. I'm not going to mention names, but one with a green logo, and it's just incredible because they really have no idea what AI even is. I met this other client, and for me this was an outstanding experience. I went to this meeting. They say, the email was, "We need some AI. Come ASAP." Okay, we got there to this client, and the first thing they says, like, everyone's talking about AI. How much can you sell me? Like, what? Yeah, how much AI can you sell me? Like, wait, do you even know how AI works? I was so tempted to say, yeah, how many pounds? 1 pound, 2 pound of AI. There was this really, this misunderstanding of, you can really put AI to any product and it would just work. And when you actually start talking to these people and say, okay, wait, let's go one step back. What problem do you want to solve? And the answer sometimes is, well, I don't know. What problem can AI solve? Okay, that's where we start. Do you have data? And then sometimes the answer is, well, we think we have data, but might not be the right one. And then the next question is, okay, now you know which data to track. Do you know the problem? Great, but do you have the people? And here's where it gets actually interesting, because very often it's super hard to get AI talent in Hong Kong, right? I don't consider myself a very good AI talent itself. I consider myself good at chatbots. But when it comes to building machine learnings, when it comes to using deep learning models, I just find this myself. We're looking for people, and we find it incredibly hard to find. And banks have the same problem. And what we see happening is that if Hong Kong doesn't manage to position itself as a very attractive place for AI practitioners to come over, most of them are going to end up in Singapore. Not kidding, right? That is my view on the place.
Just my 5 cents. I used to employ a lot of programmers here in Hong Kong, a couple of hundreds. And what I learned in these 15 or so years is that the programmers are not really interested in doing new stuff. If I offer programmers a job in a startup with AI, some really cool stuff, or a decent job in the bank or in the government, what do you think they do? They go to the government, right? Safe, not much to do. I can hide in the corner, watch YouTube. I'm serious. That is not funny, You have the culture and for innovation and technology, and the focus on finance here is short-lived. I wouldn't bet on finance so much in Hong Kong. You know what's happening in China, right? Hong Kong's going to get sucked into the Pearl River Delta ecostructure, and the finance positioning will disappear. It's a matter of time. And there's no AI culture here. I mean, how many professors like him are here in Hong Kong? There's not one hand. So that's a big problem.
I think back to what Professor just shared, the positioning of Hong Kong, right? So in this new world of AI, and how to leverage the collaboration, the potential collaboration with mainland China. That's something, we can all think of. So I think we are pretty much running out of time here. What I'd like to do to finish off, before we finish off, can you all give me one thing you want to sum up for this session for tonight, for our audience? Maybe we start with iPad. It's a cold call.
From my it's going to come. It's going to come big time, and I get used to these commands that don't worry about your job. It's not going to take your job away. It's just maybe some tasks, the boring tasks, your job's going to be gone. As a matter of fact, I've started a new company. How is it called? It deals with automating companies, complete companies. So my target is get rid of all the management. I'm serious, I'm not kidding. It's like autonomous cars, autonomous companies, you don't need management. They only interfere and they destroy business, essentially.
Mystic here. No, AI is coming, but the way I see it is, of course, be prepared, but there's no reason to worry or just quit out of school and say, oh, okay, what should I do with my life? So if you're interested in the field, start going more out there to we started the AI Society Hong Kong, just learn how it works. And it's not really about you have to create AI yourself, but just be aware. This is how it works. This is, if you're in a company, you say, oh, I'm doing this task very repetitive, perfect opportunity for you to just approach an AI expert and say, hey, what do you think? Can I solve that problem with AI, right? And my own best advice is just be informed. Yeah, that's the best way you can prepare yourself for this revolution. Be informed of what's going on.
I'd say my takeaway is AI is AI. And what I mean by that is it's artificial intelligence. And artificial being the operative word, intelligence meaning that it probably is something you already have. So being on the can-do side of life, I would really encourage you guys to think about the intelligence that you have, the things that you can automate in your own, and how basically you can create your own processes that maybe you can begin to create for yourself, so that you can maybe create your own class, your own level of complex automation that will become relevant to you or people that you feel are important in the future. So don't get so caught up in the buzzwords. I think the operative thing is basically this is something you can do. We already have intelligence. The tools in which we use, the machines in which we're using, are basically byproducts of ourselves. So do not be discouraged, and I would encourage you to just be optimistic about it and use it to your advantage.
Okay, I would. A lot of people, when they talk to me, they ask, should we worry about AI? When will AI be here, and so forth? I think we're still far from where people imagine AI it to be, the super intelligent being. I think we will need to start worrying when the person next to you might be an AI robot and you don't know about it. So I think that is still far from reality. So yeah, no need to worry yet.
Thank you so much for all your time.
Thank you. Please stay behind for the prize presentation. And Maggie, please be ready for the prize presentation on the left-hand side of the stage. Okay.
First, we would like to invite Abraham. Thank you. Thank you, Abraham. Yeah, second, Jerry. Big thanks to you all. Also, we have Bangwa.
Last but not least, Andy.
Thank you. Let's take a group photo together for the panel. For audience, please feel free to stay behind. You may have a one-on-one session with our speakers. Also, let's take a group photo. Thank you.
Okay. I think AI may be one of the next big thing in our life, just like computer were in the last century.
Yeah, now I'd like to invite Dr. Ray for a closing speech. Dr. Ray, please.
Thank you so much. Just to make it short, DBSxCAL, without your support, we won't have the DBSxCAL talk. And the audience tonight, you all are wonderful. All the great questions. Tonight, yeah. And I remind everybody that tonight, not just lecture theater, we also have 100 audience live streaming from another lecture theater. So wonderful sharing tonight. And why the CAL talk is delayed tonight? Because I think everybody know tonight is really wonderful. So I want to ask how many audience here tonight are actually students? Yeah, we can see around 1/3 of the audience is speaker, because all our speakers agree we need to do a lot of talent cultivation, and that's how we can bridge the university student and also industry. We'll try to work on this, and please follow our Facebook page, and you can all replay the video tonight online. So once again, thank you so much all. Thank you.
Since this is such a great moment, why don't we just take a group photo together? Please all come to our stage so we can take a group photo.
Yeah, let's come to the photo. Wow, it's a little bit delayed. That's why. I fully understand. It's okay. Actually, we've got some big photo together when the talk is ongoing. Yeah, I guess it's a. Yeah, thank you. Enjoy the event tonight.
Sure.
Yeah.
So everyone again?
Yeah, let's get together for a photo.
Let's get together for tonight.